and we will be off and running with our first panel of the day. And I am so excited to introduce you to our moderators, Las Cruces City Councilor Gabe Vasquez and State Representative Angelica Rubio. Welcome to you both. We are about to dive into the first panel of the day to meet New Mexico's future land and water steward.
Thank you, Axie. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Gabe Vasquez. I'm a city councilor here in Las Cruces, also the founder of the Nuestra Tierra Conservation Project. And together with Representative Rubio, a few years ago, we initiated an effort to try to get as many New Mexican youth, focusing on underserved youth, to have meaningful experiences outdoor through the creation of the New Mexico Outdoor Equity Fund. And it all started here in southern New Mexico, where we saw a real need to connect our young people to our protected federal public lands, to our state parks, to our rivers, as a way for them to explore the natural world and start thinking about careers in the outdoors, but also think about things like climate change, about careers working outside, and really to see a different world of possibilities that exist here in New Mexico. So with that, I will kick it to Representative Rubio.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angelica Rubio, and I represent District 35 here in the state of New Mexico in the state legislature, and it encompasses one of the second largest city in New Mexico. I represent a very diverse community here along the U.S.-Mexico border, which I'm very, very proud of representing. I was born and raised along the border. I have a deep connection and relationship to the land and its people. And it's a place where I've also found a lot of peace and healing, especially on my bike, which has been an extension of my body over the course of the last few years. I rode my bike up to Santa Fe twice. The first year, actually, with the purpose of connecting southern New Mexico to our state capital, and of course, promoting what we now have is the Outdoor Equity Fund, which announced 28 of its first inaugural awardees last week. And so I have been super excited about the evolution of the Outdoor Equity Fund, how it came to be, and where it's heading. And so I'm really excited to share and hear more about some of the things that we will be hopefully accomplishing over the course of the next few years, especially this first inaugural year. In my first 4 years serving in the New Mexico legislature, this is by far probably, hopefully not the last of my greatest of achievements. But as New Mexico ranks, especially when it comes to child well-being, at the very bottom of a lot of lists, I'm hopeful that the Outdoor Equity Fund will be a tool to really enhance and really make the lives of young people so much better here in the state of New Mexico. And as we've seen through COVID has illustrated to us how important not only it is to address inequities, but also how important the outdoors is for so many of us during this time. And so with that, thanks to everyone for participating and for being a part of this conversation.
Thank you, Angelica. And before we get started to introduce our panelists, I do want to acknowledge that Angelica, Representative Rubio, and myself are coming to you from Mescalero, Apache, Piro Mansotigua, Suma, and Jornada Mogollon lands, because in our outdoor education programming that we did as part of the Nuestra Tierra Conservation Project for several years, that is part of what we tried to instill and to teach our youth, that they live on these precious lands that have been stewarded by people long before us, and that it's really important to recognize our communities in a holistic way of where we come from, and the history, especially for us down here in southern New Mexico, that is so multicultural and multifaceted. So that's where we're coming to you from today. With that, I do want to now introduce a couple of folks, a couple of young folks that are joining us for this panel today. And in fact, I will have them introduce themselves. And so we have Alisa Bañuelos, who is participating in an Outdoor Equity Fund project with the New Mexico Dream Team. So Alyssa, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Banuelos, and I'm working with New Mexico Dream Team. Sorry, it took me a while. I had to figure out the mute button.
Alyssa, no problem at all. So maybe you could just start with telling us a little bit about the New Mexico Dream Team. And then a question for you as a follow-up would be, why is it so important to you that all of New Mexico's youth get an opportunity to experience the outdoors?
Okay, so what New Mexico Dream Team is the largest immigrant youth-led organization. Why I think it's important for our youth to get out into the nature is to reconnect with each other, but then also with yourself in nature. I think it's beautiful. And to be more aware of where you live and your situation and others too.
Terrific. And then do we, I'm not sure if we have on Estrella. Estrella, are you on with us yet?
Yes, sir, I am here.
Excellent. I think Representative Rubio will have the next question for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Estrella, and thank you all for welcoming us on this conversation. Yeah, the question that I had for you all was, how have outdoor experiences positively impacted your life? I shared a little bit about my own connection to the land and how my bike has been my extension to really doing that. How has that been for you all in the work that you're doing, but also in your own life?
So the outdoor experience has impacted my life because when I was younger and growing up, my family, they had gardens and they had crops of different foods, and my father, he worked construction, and he also went out and did cutting firewood for to sell for other people. It helped me learn that, you know, there's other things in life than sitting around and not caring about our environment, and how our environment helps us in the long run. And it's helped me with my life because, you know, I now think differently, and I think of different ways on how to make our environment and our lifestyle better.
So like why this is so important and like what I took from it personally was like team building together, even if it's just like with my family. If we go camping together, we have to work together to make it work. Or if it's with New Mexico Dream Team or NACA in general, the team building and learning to be comfortable with people and with myself. When I first went, like I didn't know anybody, and so it was so scary to go on this trip. But then once you get to talk to people and realize you have to work together, I thought that was amazing to get to know the environment with other people and myself.
I wanted to just add to that because I think one of the reasons why the Outdoor Equity Fund was so critical for this effort is especially for the creation of the Division of Outdoor Recreation, is that we didn't want New Mexico to turn into a lot of different states who have been struggling with outdoor recreation, especially when it comes to how it impacts public lands. And for us, conservation and really creating a new generation of stewards was critical for that. And so I think the examples that you all have shared in terms of how your own lifestyle and the way that you personally grew up, but also I think, Alisa, what you just shared in terms of like not feeling comfortable to be outside. I mean, I think that that's very common for especially communities of color, Black and Indigenous communities, that we tend to, being outside and being in these spaces isn't always the most welcoming places, because it's not always been, it's always been seen sort of as a place of privilege.
That's a great point, Representative, and I couldn't agree with you more. You know, we have a lot of challenges in New Mexico, as you were mentioning earlier, especially with our youth, who oftentimes rank at the bottom of national lists when it comes to academic achievement and child well-being, per capita household income, child hunger. And the outdoors can't solve everything, but we see the Outdoor Equity Fund as an opportunity for youth to really work on their mental health, on their physical health, but also to get a better understanding of the challenges that are facing our state. And climate change is a huge challenge. It's a crisis that we are in today. We are seeing it here in southern New Mexico through prolonged drought, record-setting temperatures, the future of water management, in particular for the Rio Grande Basin in the valley here, is going to be a challenge that our young people, Alyssa, folks like you, are going to have to work on and fix if you choose to have a career outdoors. And so I hope that your experiences outdoors lend themselves to thinking about those kinds of things, and as well as all the other people that are being impacted by this particular fund. I will add that the New Mexico Dream Team's proposal, which I had a chance to review, was really transformational, I think, in the way that it takes immigrant youth who are living here in New Mexico on these experiences in the outdoors to feel like you belong, right? To feel a little bit of healing from those experiences that you mentioned, bonding with your friends and your family, and allows you to hopefully reinvest in New Mexico later on by developing a sense of place. So with that, I think we have a couple of other questions before we open it up to the audience. Representative Rubio, you want to take the next question?
Yeah, and you briefly touched upon it. I keep calling you Gabe, Councilman Vasquez, and it's the issue around climate change. And as a legislator, I serve as vice chair of energy, which hears a lot of different issues related to not only energy but conservation and a lot of the natural resources that come out of our state, particularly extractive industries. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we're faced here within the state of New Mexico is climate change, and how our state will be, not only is it a global, it'll impact the world globally, but also here in New Mexico specifically. And Estrella and Alisa, I wanted to ask you all, how do you think climate change will impact New Mexico, and especially in terms of like your own work, and especially because of how young you are, your generation is going to not only have to endure what many generations before you have contributed to this, but I also am inspired by young people and youth on how this generation is really looking towards addressing climate change. What are your thoughts on how climate change is going to impact New Mexico?
Okay. Well, when we were out there all together, we had this conversation, and we were pretty much talking about how in 30, 50 years, like all the trees that we're seeing, like this beautiful experience, might just be dead by that time. And it was so sad to even hear that, because when you're out there, just to see everything and connect with everyone and your surroundings, it's sad to hear that, and it makes me think, at least personally, like how I need to be more aware of what I'm doing on a daily basis and what I can do in the long run to like try to save this for future generations after me.
Awesome, Melissa. And Estrella?
So I think that over the, when we went out and we did like research and stuff in the rivers, in the Ojo Caliente River, we found like organisms and stuff that were healthy and were vital to healthy waters and everything. But we also discussed that, if we don't take care of the little things we have now, like the little fish in our rivers, the trees in our backyards, or the things that are little crops we have in our yards, we need to take care of them, and we need to take care of our earth and take care of everything else and our environment to make sure that in the next 50 years, like Alyssa said, that we need to make sure that in the next 50 years, our beautiful land in New Mexico doesn't turn to emptiness, and we don't have trees, and we don't have all of these rivers like we do now. And we need to think about all of the possibilities that we can do, and all of the things that we, all of the advantages we have to be able to take the go ahead and make our environment better, so we don't have to lose our beautiful New Mexico to the climate change.
Thank you both. Those are terrific answers. Thank you, Representative Rubio, for all the work that you do in your leadership role in the state legislature to get us on the right track. I think that's so much of what we're trying to touch on as part of this conference is outdoor economics. How can we transition into an extractive fossil fuel-based economy to really promote the outdoor recreation opportunities, stewardship opportunities, that we have here and do it in a safe, sustainable, and really respectful way, especially considering the heritage of the state and respecting and honoring the tribal nations, especially that we have here, but making sure that they also benefit and making sure that that people in New Mexico, young people in New Mexico, have an opportunity to work in this industry. Now, I've worked in conservation in the outdoors for quite some time now, and I will tell you from my personal experience that the majority of people working on climate issues, on environment and conservation in New Mexico tend to be white. They tend to be really well educated, and many folks come from out of state. Now, there's nothing wrong with that because we want more people to be working in this field, and we certainly want all the help we can get in New Mexico. But it's so important that we create jobs and careers working in the outdoors for people from New Mexico, from young people here who see the outdoors as an opportunity for a career. So my next question for both of you guys, and Estrella, maybe we'll start with you this time, is if you could spend your career working in the outdoors, based on what you've done and what you love to do, what career working outdoors would you choose, or what activity is something that appeals to you?
You know, so water and the environment has always been like a really big interest to me my entire life. Like I said in the beginning, my family, we always had gardens and everything like that. So I've always been like, you know, really observant on what we need to keep our food crops healthy, our trees and all of our air sources healthy. I started looking into hydrology because hydrology was a big interest to me because it's the study to see like what organisms live in the water and how we can take the little bit of water we have and expand it into more, because we have so much water on our earth, but you know, we only have so much of it that's in the right place at the right time, so we can't always have it. So I started thinking, you know, hydrology is an interesting study because it can help us in a lot of ways. It can help us learn how to make cleaner water for our food crops so we can have healthier food, and it can be healthier for the plants that we have next to the Rio Grande. It can be useful for a lot of things, and that's one of the things that I enjoyed was looking into the study of hydrology. And so that's one study that I think would be a good interest in the future for me.
Thank you, Estrella. I think there's going to be lots of water jobs in New Mexico in the future, and I'm so impressed that you're so interested in hydrology already at such a young age, and hopefully working with RiverSource, you know, gives you the inspiration to stay in New Mexico and pursue a career here, because you're right, water management is going to be huge for us. Alyssa, what about you? Career in the outdoors? What are your thoughts?
So for me personally, I would like to do kind of what our guides did for us, reaching out to youth and getting them out there with everyone at different levels of experience. Like some had little, some had none at all. And so for me, I always liked hiking and camping, but I've never been backpacking. So this was such a big deal to me, and I'd like to do that for other youth, to reach out and get them out there together. And so that's just the kind of work that I'd like to do, is pretty much what our guides did for us, and getting just to know and experience everything so I can put it out there for.
That's terrific. Yes, that's so needed. That mentorship is what the Outdoor Equity Fund is all about. So many people have signed up to take youth outside on meaningful experiences outdoors. And in fact, the Outdoor Equity Fund applicants that we received this year, I think over 90 that actually qualified, but I think more than 100 were submitted in total, just show the need for these programs in communities from rural, urban to Native American communities all across the state. And it all comes down to mentorship and access and opportunity and breaking down those barriers that that so many of our families in New Mexico have to get outdoors. I do encourage folks that are on to ask any questions. If you have any questions for our panelists, please put them in the chat box. But in the meantime, Representative Rubio, what are some of the things that you're excited about with this round of applicants in the Outdoor Equity Fund for this year?
Yeah, no, so it was really exciting to hear so many of the different folks. I know I was really impressed with folks like the Dream Team who were able to do this outdoor docu-healing. I thought that was really, really cool to be able to read through some of the things that they're considering and that they're working on. A couple of others that I've highlighted, especially because there's a lot of national conversations taking place right now around how do we do an outdoor equity fund at a national level. And so I've been able to share some really great ideas from like Caruna Colectiva. They're one of the folks that they work, learn, earn environment for Indigenous youth to enhance the autonomy, creative skills, health, and success through holistic practices and traditional culture. And of course, the fact that they are taking bike rides along the Bosque trails, for me, that was like the biggest part of the connection for me and that group specifically. But the other one, and this one's more local and it's here in Las Cruces, is the Families and Youth Inc., which we call FYI, which is the Outdoor Legacy Project, which I thought was also a very creative idea in terms of like, how do you put youth who are maybe struggling here in your community through a lot of variety of different issues that youth experience on a day-to-day basis, but then how being outside and healing can also be such a great, being outside and that being a tool for healing and finding peace is, I think, one of the most important things that I think is part of this Outdoor Equity Fund. I was also going to say that related to conservation, when we were talking about that earlier, how I come from a Mexican family with immigrant parents, and I want to say that I'm not alone in this conversation of those of us who are on this talk, but do you ever remember going into the refrigerator and like thinking that there's like this bucket of butter and instead it's filled with like frijoles that your mom made, but then uses like these old like storage containers? These are, I want to say that we've been in conservation for a very, very long time as a people, and so that was one of the things that just came to mind earlier of like, here I wanted butter for my tortilla and instead I got me some frijoles.
Yeah, totally, Angelica, Representative. I agree with you. So many ways. I know that I opened up my pantry doors or the doors underneath the sink to find a ball like this big of plastic bags all intertwined together because my mom didn't ever want to throw anything away. I don't think we ever ran out of plastic bags, but that's a good thing because we don't want our plastic bags floating around, you know, hanging on mesquite and other types of bushes and contributing to the crazy amount of plastic that exists in our environment. Before we wrap up here in just a few minutes, I thought we could just ask another quick question to our panelists. And so this question is maybe more around the barriers to the outdoors and something that the Outdoor Equity Fund addresses through these funds that pay for everything from camping gear to guides to transportation to gasoline. It's such a broad range of possibilities of funding that this fund covers to break down those barriers. So Estrella and Alyssa, last question for you guys. What do you see as the barriers for underserved, low-income youth in our communities to going outside? And we can start with Alyssa.
Well, the barriers in general, I would say, are just the resources. Just even getting transportation was such a big deal. At first, when I was reached out and told about this, I was like, I don't think I can go because I don't know how I'd get there. Until they told me, like, we have vans and we have, you know, everything for you. You don't need to worry about that, which was just a big, like, relief. And I think that's just so amazing because not everyone had backpacking type of backpacks or anything along the lines of just those little grill things to make food and just things like that. That was just a big deal to everyone into situations that we really needed.
Thank you, Alyssa. Absolutely. That's what the fund pays for. Estrella?
Well, one of the things I know always was a barrier for me in going out and exploring like the woods and finding different types of flowers and seeing all different types of things was schooling, of course, didn't get in the way because that's a main thing, but also the transportation was kind of iffy because, you know, your parents are always busy working and providing food for the table and making sure you have a roof over your head and stuff like that. So that was always like a big barrier, like for me. That was always hard for me, but as I got older, it became a little bit easier. And I mean, hopefully there's a way in the future for kids and youth to be able to go out and have this time to be able to explore and understand more and stuff like that.
Thank you, Estrella. With that, Representative, I'll let you wrap up our session today.
Well, thank you all for checking in and being a part of this conversation. Alisa and Estrella, thank you for joining us. Again, if there's any inspiration that I have in the legislature, but even just as an organizer and person doing the work, I'm constantly inspired by young people like you all. And so I'm sorry for the truck that's passing right now, but all I can say is that I'm inspired, and that if there's anyone, especially older folks, who tell you that you're just too optimistic and too in the clouds, I just tell you that to say that you disagree, because if there's any hope for the future of this country and this world and the state of New Mexico, it's folks like Alisa and Estrella. So thank you for being a part of this, and thank you, AXI, for all of the work that you do for the Division of Outdoor Recreation, and for allowing myself and Councilman Vasquez to be able to moderate this conversation.
Wow, oh man, it's such an honor to have you guys here. And I think, to echo some of what you were just saying, Representative Rubio, I think it can be easy to feel very pessimistic about things right now. And I think to feel connected to nature at this moment is to open yourself up to a lot of grief. And frankly, hearing Estrella and Alyssa speak, I am optimistic. I think our future is bright because of young women like you both. So thank you for joining us. We need you in hydrology and youth programming in the outdoors. And I think it's evidence of the power of the Outdoor Equity Fund and the idea that the councilor and the representative had in the first place, that type of experience is what makes you then want to go work in some of these careers. So I am also feeling so inspired. Thank you all. I so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up at 9:30, we are going to hear from marketing and tourism professionals from within and without the state about how to market an outdoor community safely during the time of COVID. This panel will be moderated by Jim Glover, a marketing expert behind many of the most recognizable outdoor rec brands in the state. I hope everyone here has seen Farmington's Jolt Your Journey messaging, and if not, you will learn more about it today. So